Welcome back to Reimagine 2020. I'm Yonah Hochhauser, and today I'm glad to be joined by Samantha Yap, founder and CEO at YAP Global. Samantha, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Yonah.
Now, first, give our audience a little sense of kind of who you are and how you got into this blockchain PR world.
Yeah, sure. So my background's in journalism. I studied journalism. My first job out of uni was basically working as a broadcast producer actually in Singapore, for Singapore's national broadcaster. And I'm actually Australian, so it's quite global. Hence the global side of my company name. But anyway, so I was working as a journalist. I was covering mainly like current affairs, human interest stories. So that was like my training, and then I quit to freelance a little bit, and then I somehow found myself in a fintech gig, fintech PR gig, where I was helping fintech companies with PR. I didn't know much about fintech at the time, but I remember it was in early 2017, and that was when ICOs started to take off, and there was a lot of innovation around the blockchain and cryptocurrency industry because of it. And so the firm that I was working with did have one or two clients, and so through that, I started to learn a lot about the blockchain and cryptocurrency industry. I think there was a few awesome people I met that taught me how to buy, store Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I remember someone taught me how to create my own coin. It had no value. It was like the XC. It was like a counterparty like token. I don't know what's happened to it right now, but anyway, I created my own coin. I got super like obsessed with it. Then I realized I'm like really interested in this. So when I went off to freelance, and like I started like writing stories about crypto, and I moved to the UK for personal reasons, and I didn't have a job at the time. But then I started like posting and writing about crypto, and companies started approaching me to do PR, or they were looking for like comms people basically to join their team. So, and I didn't really want to pick one company because there was a lot of companies at the time, and I didn't really know who they were, and you needed to kind of filter it out. So I just created like a proposal for myself, like to do PR. So I was like, well, I can take on a client or two, and I took one, and they really liked it, and I started to build a solid contact base, and more started to come. So that's how YAP Global was founded.
Well, that's awesome, because it seems like perfect timing. You mentioned you started in 2017 with that ICO boom, and I'm sure that like the media is all over that. And then now, especially with this latest bull run, I'm sure that everyone wants to hear about it, know about it, hear stories. So it's a very exciting time. But I feel like with the 2017 ICO boom, there was a lot of excitement, and then everyone was interested. It was on the front page of mainstream media. Then like the bubble burst, and all the mainstream like, all right, this is just a fad, and they forgot about it. And then now we're seeing with this latest bull run, this excitement again. So on one, do you feel any hesitancy on the part of the mainstream media? They're a little wary that, okay, is this just another bubble? Are they kind of scared to lean into it? Are they skeptical, or are they excited about it like we are?
I think so that there was talk last week. Sorry, I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but there was talk of how it's not as noisy, and Bitcoin hitting like 18K, and even just as we speak right now 19K. It's been quieter than before, because perhaps the all-time high had Bitcoin had already been at 19K, so it's not like new news. So probably I think they're waiting until we're all waiting until it hits 20K, and then anything after 20K will be like the all-time high, right? Because that's where we're at. And the way media works, and in general journalism, it's like if it's not new, it's like just it's not like gonna make headlines yet. I think this time round, I think from the lot, like from 2017 and then early 2018, it's the regulators that kind of they were kind of clamping down on ICOs. In the US, the SEC was like kind of clamping down on activity in this space. And I think, yeah, that added and contributed to the negative stigma that, ICOs in crypto had. But I think like the companies and the innovation in this space, like the fact that there are still companies being built with the technology, on the technology, shows that like it's a real industry. It's not just a bubble. Like it's there's still companies that are building today. So I think this time round, it's more of like, I think when we hit 20K, that's when people will start paying more attention. And yeah, and this time round, it's because within the industry, we kind of know what this means, but to the outsiders still, they're kind of, yeah, it hasn't hit 20K yet. So I think they're just
well, let's hope that they don't realize a little longer, so I could afford to buy a little more Bitcoin and then let everyone in on the party. But it's kind of crazy because, like you mentioned, someone was teaching you all about it. And I know when I first got into the industry, it's a lot to learn, and I wonder, as someone who's trying to do PR for even a specific project or company, first, someone has to learn what blockchain is. And then they have to know what Bitcoin is. And then, because like before you're even trying to sell your product is predicated on the success and stability of this underlying new technology, new concept, new currency. So when you're actually doing PR for a project or a company, how important is it to tie it in, attach Bitcoin to it, or any crypto? Like, how important is it to explain the technology, or do you just tell a cool story how this is going to make your life better?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think the knowledge gap, because the knowledge gap is wide with like newcomers and then crypto, but the knowledge gap is getting wider the older this industry gets. So like Bitcoin is what, like 12 years old now, and I think, yeah, like it is very important to, when you enter this space right now, as it's still early, to still understand the basics. So to actually still go back and read the Bitcoin white paper. So any new team member that joins my team, I make them read the Bitcoin white paper. There's also this other university called the University of Nicosia, and maybe Mousebelt University has a program too, but they have this like introduction to digital currencies course. Like I always encourage my team to do that too. I think it's very important when you're communicating what your company does, like, and especially even this year with DeFi exploding, there's a whole other level of complexity. To even talk about decentralization, you need to go back to the basics. But then, there's the other argument where like soon we want these applications to be as easy, like these Web 3.0 applications to be as easy as Web 2 ones. But, and just like how today we don't need to know what goes on behind Google Chrome and the internet, like we don't need to know the basics. I think with crypto, there's still like fundamental points, like the fact that it is decentralized, the fact that when you own your ETH on a cold storage wallet, like what that means, how you store that, like there is more responsibility, for the holder of a cryptocurrency, because it's not like, it's not like you can, like I know there's Coinbase where, they have your password and everything, and you can go, oh, I forgot my password. But, people still need to know that if you have like a cold storage wallet and your ETH or Bitcoin in it, and you forget your password or you forget your PIN, there is no bank, there is no one that can help retrieve that for you. Like you are responsible for that. I think we need to still remind people that, like, yeah, that's how, you interact with crypto today.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's such an interesting part. I mean, I'm sure for you, where it's not just a new technology, but it seems like there's like a lot of like ideology attached to it. It's like not your keys, not your crypto, self-sufficiency, self-ownership, this idea of independence, privacy. It's like, it's almost like a countercultural phenomena for some people. And on the other side, it's like the tech geeks are like, wow, this technology is so cool. Look how many transactions per second. And then there's this other side that's like banking the unbanked. We're going to decentralize things and give access and open. So, do you find that you kind of have to like like tell your story through the filter or through the lens of one of these like ideologies, or does like, is it only exist these ideologies in our small little crypto community, and like it doesn't even speak to the public?
Right. I think, yeah, there's so many ways and there's so many parts to explain this technology. A lot of PR and like how we craft our message and craft our press releases is the first thing we look at is who is our audience, right? Even with our clients, like we do check what are their objectives too. So for some of our clients, they want to get in front of developers. Okay, if they want to get in front of developers, that's kind of more, it's like more closer to home and it's easier for them to communicate to developers. But if they want to communicate to investors, or and especially traditional financial investors, then there's a way to get their attention, and it's you got to talk about how it would benefit them and their service, and how crypto can cut administrative costs, cut out the middlemen, and also like talk about security. That's where you talk about like custody of assets, how it all works. So there's that. And then going mainstream, it's like, yeah, okay, you want to get in like we always ask our clients, like, okay, is your app like, do you want your application to be used by the average person on the street? And can it, like, first? And also a lot of what we do is, yeah, kind of help guide our clients to see what they need as well, because sometimes if there's no case study or there's no example of a user that's actually already using their wallet to do something, or an app, it's really hard for like the average person on the street to go, okay, I will want to set up a wallet now and buy an NFT.
I mean, I don't envy you. I mean, this is such a new technology, and like I feel like, especially in the public space, for some reason, the first couple of years, I mean, I think now it's slowly getting away from that, but Bitcoin kind of had this name in the public's eye as this criminal money, this secretive money that criminals would use and like mobsters would use to hide and transfer, and like anyone who's actually in the industry recognizes that this is not the way it works, that it represents such a small fraction of percentage of crypto transactions, and it's actually not a good use to hide money. I mean, you could track it on a blockchain. There's like cipher trace and chain analysis. I'm like, it's like the worst thing to do to hide money is use Bitcoin or crypto in general. Cash works much better. So how much do you find that that's still attached to the crypto or Bitcoin brand? Is this idea that it's like this secretive criminal money? Are we still having to break that?
I think that we're like, what I think we're not well away, but like I think we've broken away from that a little bit more because of the use cases that have come out over the last like 3 to 4 years. So you're starting to see blockchain technology be used for supply chain and like like tracking provenance of food, and you're also hearing like blockchain voting, how it secures like anonymity, and how like especially right now, blockchain voting is a good topic of discussion with what's happening in the US right now. Like, trying to reveal whether fraud has happened, voting fraud. So I think there has been more use cases over the last few years that people are starting to see, and I think that the well-informed mainstream journalist that covers like tech or finance will be aware that like it's not just used for like drugs and buying drugs and like that Silk Road stuff.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Bitcoin, it definitely is the most well known in the mainstream. I think it's at the point where Bitcoin is synonymous, where crypto is synonymous with Bitcoin. To the point where it's like Xerox or Band-Aid, where people in the mainstream, when they hear Bitcoin or they hear crypto, they think Bitcoin. They're not aware that there's even our altcoin. So how much is it a challenge? When most crypto projects aren't built on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not really the blockchain that DeFi or other communities are built on. It's really Ethereum, it's other altcoins. So when you're trying to actually sell a project or do PR for a product, do you kind of have to present it like it's like Bitcoin, but yada 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 yada?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the way we present it is like Bitcoin is like the father of all currencies, but there's many other ones, and they all serve different purposes. But it's a good point you made, because while like I think the mainstream world are aware of Bitcoin because it just shot up when the price hit 20K in 2017. I don't think many people, I think the outer mainstream world, like Ethereum is still the lesser known kind of like, what do they call it, brother, cousin of crypto. So like, and that goes to show how early we are, because like Ethereum is the second largest cryptocurrency in the space. And I think among financial media, potentially, but still in mainstream media, like Ethereum, I've had to explain it to people still. And yeah, we spend a lot of time educating journalists, like especially the ones that are kind of more mainstream. And it's interesting because like when we send stuff to journalists and they do pick up one of our clients, we kind of are aware of what they do and don't understand because of the way they write or explain or describe our client, and it's really helpful actually for us to see where their understanding is at, and then it gives us a prompt to go, okay, maybe we need to simplify, not simplify, but like better explain what our client's trying to do in a more easy to understand way, because saying like a cross-chain infrastructure layer 2 solution, like that means nothing to
right. Yeah. it's so technical. A lot of these things are very technical, and like I'm sure it's a tough sell for you. But I think, or correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, I think that like the best lesson or a lesson that we can learn is actually from Tesla, because Tesla doesn't market. They don't have a marketing budget. They don't actually do any marketing. It's mostly their fanboys, which is like the people who own Teslas or are really big fans of Teslas. And so it's like this word of mouth that they can't shut up. They're writing on every forum on the internet. They're telling every person they meet. And I think this is very similar to Bitcoin or crypto in general, where Bitcoin, there isn't a Bitcoin company. They're not marketing, but yet someone who's an early adopter of Bitcoin or crypto in general, every person they're talking to, they usually find a way of bringing it up in conversation and pushing. It's very ideological. So do you find that like that's where most of this of the branding for crypto gets out to the world, is kind of this word of mouth? Every person is a brand ambassador because like they're so loyal fans to these projects.
That's a interesting way you put it. To be honest, I think it's really just like in a similar way. I never thought about it that way with how you thought about Tesla, but like you kind of let the product speak for itself. And so you're like, battery operated car, like cool, they don't have to pay for fuel. Like, people relate to that. The same thing with Bitcoin. I think while there are people like, I think also we have to be aware sometimes in the crypto space, it is an echo chamber because they're all just talking to each other. But how Bitcoin speaks for itself is just the price, because like the attention that the crypto industry and Bitcoin gets is really pegged to its price. And I think, then, you go into why is the price going up? Why is the price going down? Which is what's happening right now. But it's like, you let it speak for itself. And I think that's like kind of the reference point, because people will go, oh, have you heard of Bitcoin? And like, you kind of go, oh, remember when and that's kind of people's way in, like, oh, imagine if like I had bought Bitcoin at like 900 and now look at it, it's like 9,000. Like that is still money is still the reference point. Like, oh, did you know that like Bitcoin was only like, this amount and now it's this much? I think that is enough to capture people's attention. And that is what is capturing people's attention. And if you look at like financial, like, publications, whenever they write about Bitcoin, it's usually when there's some crazy activity on the price. So it's usually when it's at a whole-time high or it's dropped significantly. Like for example, on like the Black Thursday, March, when COVID hit the world, basically. Like there was like Bloomberg and like FT writing about the price of Bitcoin because it plunged. Like, so it's really, the attention right now is really pegged to the price of Bitcoin. And that's why right now, with Bitcoin price kind of going up, it is the perfect opportunity for crypto companies to start like, talking about what they've been doing. Basically start like promoting themselves, because this is when the mainstream world's starting to pay more attention. And yeah, it's an interesting time.
Yeah, this is the time. This is the time to start working on your PR and getting your name out there, because because of the Bitcoin price, the interest is there. And like, if you think about it, really, there's no real reason. Like, there's been no real new developments recently with Bitcoin. It's just the market is just going up, and so everyone's attention is on it. But when you're talking about real development, if you're talking about interesting technical development, that's happening on Ethereum right now with the launch of ET2.0, a deposit staking contract, with all of DeFi, really blowing up there. So that's something I wanted to ask you about, where when we're talking about DeFi, where you don't have that mainstream coverage of the price, especially now, especially because it's quieted down since the yield farming of the summer. How does one even, a pitch or market a DeFi product? It's so new, this concept, and people, I think, they might be a little wary. Like, how much do you want to lean into the idea that it's decentralized, that it's no banks? Because I think people have a negative connotation towards banks, but at the end of the day, it's scary to put your money, where something isn't regulated, where something is totally the Wild West. So how should DeFi projects actually brand themselves and pitch themselves?
Right. So before I delve deep into like how to promote DeFi projects, I just want to also touch on how right now, while Bitcoin price is like, and Bitcoin's making like global headlines, especially, for example, you're hearing like PayPal adopt it, and that's what's like leading to the price going up. This is a perfect opportunity also for the Ethereum community, because this is where it's that reference point again. It's like, hey, so this is Bitcoin, this is the father of all cryptocurrencies, and did you know that the second largest cryptocurrency is Ethereum? And right now the Ethereum price is this, and then delving into, well, how is Ethereum different? So this is how I would do it. Like, how is Ethereum different? The smart contract offering, etc. There's all these companies being built on it. And then like, that's your way into like E2.0 and the scalability solution. And then to add on to that is talk about decentralized finance. So I think like that's a really great opportunity right now. But yeah, DeFi, decentralized finance is still very complex. And I'm sure like regulators and like, traditional financial, leaders are still grappling with it. I think you're just starting to see people like still grapple with Bitcoin. So if they're going to grapple with Bitcoin, that like, I don't think they're even going to get to DeFi yet, but they will perhaps. And in terms of the safety and the security of like, DeFi projects, it is important for them for companies in the space to communicate that. But I want to encourage and actually remind everyone that it's still early days, and if they want to communicate, their decentralized exchange or decentralized protocol, like, remember, education is key. Like, keep going back to basics. You still need to remind people like, like how this technology works, because even us working closely with companies, it's been so hard to keep up with, that we even need moments and days where we like just research and learn. So like, actually, it's a call to the crypto companies to like remember, you need to educate the people around you, because that's the only way they can help you. Like as a PR firm, while we are a niche agency, and we are like, I think you speak to us about your DeFi project, we will probably be able to wrap our heads around it faster than the average like kind of mainstream agency. We still need help because it's still super technical. And I think this is what I was talking about like it being echo chamber. Like if the companies in the space truly want mass adoption to happen, like make it easy to understand and use.
Right. Well, it's not so easy making it easy.
Exactly.
The news part, luckily, Bitcoin price is doing that for us. They're opening the door for all the news agencies.
Exactly.
But you mentioned that you do PR for blockchain and crypto companies. But I wonder, and I'm not sure if you ever thought about this, but have you ever thought or considered, is there any part of the PR business that you think blockchain could actually help, the actual technology? And not just toss on blockchain as a keyword that's been done before, who cares? It's okay if the answer is no, it doesn't fit in every industry, but off the top of your head, do you think there's any area where blockchain or crypto could help PR?
Not really. Like, maybe in a way we're like tracking coverage, but in terms of like the actual work that we do, PR, we're still very like traditional like company and business, like, offering. I mean, it's people, right? Like, and it's communications, and you can't put that, like, you can't, put that into an AI like machine. Like, I think I'd be wary of any like tool that says that they could like do PR for you, and they're like a AI platform.
Yeah.
Like we're still talking to journalists. We have to communicate with them. We still have to communicate with our clients. So actually, you can't really cut out the middle person. We're kind of a middleman in a way, like where like we are in between the founder or the company and the journalist, but I think we're needed to filter kind of the noise and working with and also help companies communicate what they do. But I think in terms of blockchain, potentially just with like tracking media. So because like we do media monitoring every day to just see where our clients have been mentioned online, and yeah, there could be a tool that makes it faster. Then cool.
It's okay. We don't have to shove blockchain into everything. It's totally fine. If it doesn't exist, I'm more than happy with that. But it's interesting. But you did mention audiences and kind of where to find your audiences in this space. And so not really the mainstream, because mainstream audience, I get it. But when companies say we want the crypto audience, or people who are already interested in cryptocurrencies or blockchain, where is that audience? I know crypto Twitter is very popular, but how do you reach the crypto community?
Yeah, it really depends as well. But in terms of the like top tier crypto publications, so we would say The Block, Coindesk, Cointelegraph, and Decrypt Media, like they are the go-to sites that get the most traction. Even if you just do a Google search, you kind of see them like pop up on the top news searches. So that's where you can kind of get their attention and understand a lot of the community discussions happen within Discord channels, Reddit, and Telegram. But getting into the media also builds that credibility, because if you've been in a Telegram group or Discord channel, you also start seeing the articles get shared and distributed. So that's kind of your way of establishing credibility. And also if you want to kind of say something and get it out there, like, yeah, your best bet will be getting into the media publications. And then you've got also newsletters that like the Defiant, for example, that is like purely focused on DeFi. You've also got kind of like markets and analysis sites that distribute newsletters. That's another good way to get in front of people. And so yeah, it also depends on the story. So if it's like a developer update or like something more technical, then yes, there's a specific reporter we would go to and a specific way you would tell the story. or if it's like a fundraise story where you want like other investors to kind of be aware that you're raising money and you're growing. We would also look to like technology publications. So the aim would be like TechCrunch. They don't cover a lot of crypto companies yet, but I think it's because of how young and early the industry is, and also the size of investments. But I think over time, like hopefully, companies in the space will get more attention from like tech pubs like TechCrunch and VentureBeat and the next web.
Yeah, I hope so. And of course, as the valuations go up, and as I think it's Chainalysis just raised $100 million at $1 billion valuation.
Yeah.
I'm sure TechCrunch wrote about that, and that really, it's old numbers. I mean, you're journalists.
Yeah.
You want those big headlines, and I'm sure as these companies get more and more valuable, that makes bigger headlines. And so, I mean, that's the beauty. It's so new, everything's growing. It's going to make headlines and do the work for us. So that's really great for us. And I wonder how COVID has affected PR. Especially for blockchain crypto, where I feel like a lot of companies, they leaned on crypto conferences to make connections and get their name out, get the product out, get awareness, because those conferences aren't happening. And we have Reimagine 2020 going so well, but we don't have that physical big conferences anymore, the face-to-face conferences. Has that increased the need for PR in the space?
Yes, in a way it has. Yes, definitely. I mean, in terms of how, conferences, because conferences are where like even we would get our clients, and even where we would meet people. And we were so grateful that we had been to a few conferences before, and we even were the media partners for ECC, the Ethereum Community Conference in Paris. In March, just before like global lockdowns like hit. And that's where we built our relationships with people. So actually some of our clients today are from like our interactions and meet up, like us meeting them at conferences. So yeah, it was sad that we missed out on that. But I think in a way, COVID has helped our industry because everyone's kind of remote anyway. Like my team's all remote. I've got 2 team members in Australia, 1 in Paris, Berlin, London. So we're kind of spread across the world, and we've always been remote since day one. And I think that's been the same for a lot of other crypto companies. So in a way, it's been helpful because it's been more productive. Now, in terms of meeting people and like getting your project out there, definitely PR has helped, because while everyone's locked up and in lockdown, more people are spending time on their computers and like online. And so actually, if you want to get attention, like more eyeballs are on line now than they were before, because pre-COVID we'd be busy traveling and stuff, but now we're kind of all glued to our computers, so it's the best time to kind of get your word out there.
And what would you say was your biggest PR crisis? And I imagine in the airline industry, it's when crashes. In the auto industry, it's like big recalls. In crypto industry, what are the big PR crises? Is it like just exchange hacks? I mean, what was the biggest PR crisis you had?
They're like either hacks or I haven't actually dealt with a hack, but they're like or phishing attempts. So we used to work with My Ether Wallet, and they there was a really like high level attack where it wasn't just a phishing attempt, it was a DNS attack. So it was like someone hacked into the DNS server and changed the IP address of the whole site. So it was like so I think that the challenge is dealing with complex crisis situations. So that was like really like security researchers were writing about that attack like weeks later, because they were just like analyzing and assessing it. So but dealing with something very complex happening live at the moment was quite intense. But the course of action I would advise to companies who are dealing, because especially this year there've been a lot of hacks, who are dealing with a crisis comms moment, is to keep your update timely and to keep it in one uniform place, and don't talk to the media. Like you'll probably get pinged or requested for comment, like, but always direct them to a central statement, or like, you know, direct them to the website or your Twitter, but don't don't speak to the media if you're dealing with a crisis comms moment, because you just want to be wary of like how they're going to spin the story. So that's my advice. But yeah.
Well, you know, you were a journalist. You knew you saw an innocent, a vulnerable exchange just got hacked. You're gonna pounce on that. You're gonna try to milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah, and it's like, because as a reporter, it's like, it's sensational and it's a hot story. Like, if you're a reporter and you found out that there was a hack happening, like, that's a scoop. Like, so, but you want to be wary, because like the person in charge of the company that's dealing with that, you have to consider your users, you have to consider the security of the situation, because if you, just like how you said, everything is traceable and people can see that. So you also want to be wary of whether you should at a certain time tell everyone about a hack. The reason why people don't tell people about hacks exactly when it happens is because if another bad actor sees that vulnerability, they could basically do the same thing and take more funds. So you also want to manage that. And then also on the comm side, you want to explain why, like, okay, we didn't update you guys like immediately because we just wanted to make sure that our users were safe. Like, you just have to communicate all these things.
And you need to be transparent and open. Exactly. And we often see the frustration on the user's end. You know, when withdrawals are frozen, like talking about OKX, BitMEX. I mean, it happens a lot, or too often, that exchanges, for one reason or another, whether it's a maintenance update or whether it's a hack or something else, where they freeze funds and they're not communicative enough with the community. And then you can see it because this community lives in social media. You know, where's our funds? You know, it's going back and.
I think we have to remember also, because like, while I'm a PR, like, while we're a PR firm, we're more external, but like, especially with companies that are still so young, it's like internal comms is just as important. Like, and internal comms in a way where you owe it to your users. And actually if I was a founder of an exchange, like, you are responsible for communicating that to your users first before telling the media. Like, media should come second, making it public, yes, but like, your users should also be informed. So where you're getting users kind of like, chatting in Telegram or Twitter, then it shows that, it's also not a good look PR wise, because it shows like, okay, is this company actually updating their users like first? Because that's like, they're the one, it's their money that's at stake here.
Yeah. So that's like the negative side. That's like the the worst case scenario. But how about the flip side? What was your most successful PR campaign?
My most successful PR campaigns have been ones where like they're big stories, and it doesn't matter whether they're big. I mean, it does matter the story, but like when you've hit like all the media publications in one go, that feels really good. So like one example is we actually helped FTX with their tokenized equities launch recently. We managed to secure an exclusive with Bloomberg, which was very, very exciting, and it went out on that Bloomberg terminal. And then at the same time, you had all the top tier crypto press go out with the story at the same time. That's when you make a bigger bang. And like, that takes time to orchestrate. Like, there needs to be a dedicated strategy. Like, and people think it happens instantly, but it's at least 3 weeks of planning, of seeding the story, of making sure that journalists like has it in their diary to go out. So that's been our most exciting piece. I mean, there's a lot actually, but that's the one I can think of the last few weeks.
And the connection between journalism and PR really goes hand in hand, and maintaining those relationships with publications and their writers and the journalists. Do you think that there are enough, especially the mainstream publications, the big times, the Wall Street Journals, the New York Times, the Bloombergs. Are there journalists there? Is it still, okay, they're mainstream journalists who now, because Bitcoin and crypto is exciting, so now they're looking for crypto stories? Or are we slowly getting journalists who are more in these mainstream publications, who are more actually devoted, and this is their role, they're on the Bitcoin beat?
Yep, definitely. I think back in 2017, when the ICO craze kicked off, that was the start. You were starting to see you're also starting to see crypto being added on as a category on Bloomberg and on CNBC. It's become a beat, because before it was technology, but technology is so broad. You could be AI, it could be talk about VR, it could be talk about anything, but crypto, and then there's fintech, that's another side of things. So yeah, definitely. I think since 2017, well, I'm only speaking from my experience, but you're starting to see more crypto focused and dedicated reporters in these mainstream publications, because you're also starting to see them be more informed and educated, and yeah, so that's definitely grown over the last 3 years, and I hope that it will grow even more, especially with what's happening right now. So yeah, definitely that's happening.
And someone with journalism background, I'm sure you really appreciate good journalism, and not just people who shill for other people. So not asking you as the head of your own PR company and who you work with, but asking you, as someone who has a journalism background and enjoys this industry and reading about it, what is your favorite crypto publication, and who is your favorite crypto journalist? And by the way, I'm going to preface this so that you're not scared. For everyone who you don't mention, it does not mean you don't like them. I'm just asking who's your favorite.
Who's my favorite? Oh, that's really hard. I mean, I actually give a lot of credit to The Block, because of their investigative approach to reporting. I think that it is important, because I say this as a PR founder, but we're always going to be subjective, so we're always going to protect our clients. But I also appreciate good journalism, so I do like how the investigative approach, and it's important to hold these companies accountable, especially with all these stories of hacks and stuff. You need to hold these companies accountable. In terms of favorite reporter, I don't know. I actually can't think of one at the top of my head. But those who have, I think I love more longer form features. So anyone who's spent time, because that's where you can do the work, right? So longer form features where there's been a lot of work put into that. I respect those pieces. I think, they don't get read enough, because I think daily people just want the news, the quick news bites, but I think feature stories are needed for this industry. And
I also come from a journalism background, so I do also appreciate those investigative pieces, those long form pieces. And unfortunately, in our world, even in mainstream media, it is a slowly dying field, or it's a fraction of what it used to be. So it is a shame. Also noticed, you did not mention Cointelegraph or Coindesk. I imagine good luck getting any article in there ever again. I'm just joking. You're great. Now,
we were the media partners for Consensus. So we work with Coindesk for the conference. So we love the Coindesk team, and we're actually connected with a few of their reporters. I think we're also aware of who to go to. So we know who the DeFi experts are. We know who to go to if we want to talk about security. So I think that's really important.
Well, shout out Michael J. Casey, writer for Coindesk. I love his articles. He does long form. Keep it up. Now, to you, when we're talking about PR, it's not only the audience is not always consumers. They're especially in certain industries, lobbying to governments and regulators is a big portion of it. Does crypto have a strong lobby? Is there either an industry lobby group or individual groups that have taken it upon themselves to really go and educate regulators, push for the rights and positive laws for crypto?
I'm not aware of any strong lobbies, but I mean, what I, as an expert on like, crypto media and the media landscape, like what I can say is like the way they're communicating to the regulators is via media. So actually like Coindesk, the block, I do think that the world does read these publications. That's why they're so important. Like, and I think, because it's like with news, right? Like, the insider news of the industry always hits the niche publications first. So, I mean, I have to say, like Coindesk, the block, they're still very niche. Like, no one's really watching it. But what you're starting to see now is like when CNBC or like Bloomberg start writing about the crypto space, they're going as first seen in Coindesk or as first mentioned or as reported by the block. This is what happened. So you're actually starting to see that now as well. So I think publications like, Coindesk, the block, Cointelegraph, Decrypt, like I'm covering them all. They are very important. Like when you're writing about anything to do with like crypto regulations or what's coming out, like mainstream media do read that first and then report on it. Like that's the source basically. So it's important if you want to get a message across or lobby something or get something to the regulators.
And last question before I let you go, because I do know that you're busy. When we're talking about the crypto industry, I wonder how you get past this unique challenge this industry has, because I feel like not everyone, but the industry as a whole does put a certain value on privacy. There seems to be a certain focus on either personal privacy, transactional privacy, whether we're talking about Monero and privacy coins specifically, or whether we're just talking about the idea that the person who started all this, Satoshi, is an anonymous figure. Especially when we're talking about DeFi, there's a lot of anonymous teams. So when you're trying to do PR, how do you market certain projects or in this industry? How do you get around this fact or this idea that this industry really does value privacy so much? How do you pitch an anonymous team, or how do you promote an anonymous team?
Yeah, it's actually really hard, and that's a really good question, because recently we did a potential like call with a potential client, and they were anonymous. Like we could hear his voice, but we couldn't see his camera, and his name was a pseudonym name. And yeah, we're quite selective with who we work with, and we're also conscious of what's a hard sell and what's a good one. And it's challenging because it's like cybersecurity. I know that cybersecurity companies, they're not necessarily out there to PR themselves, or it might not even make sense because they really want to be like behind the scenes, like low radar, and maybe they might want to do some B2B like PR, but that's it. I think that's the same thing with privacy. Like coins, we used to work with Zcoin, so we're aware of how to like PR a privacy coin, but it's like there are users within the privacy coin space that don't actually want people to shout about. Right. So it's like being aware of that. But aside from working with Zcoin, haven't worked with an anonymous team, because we know like Ruben, who is the COO of Zcoin. So we were able to talk to him. We know what he was representing, and we also knew the purpose and the mission they had, and that was to promote financial privacy, because it is very important. But if there's I think also you're over the past few months, you're starting to see regulators put pressure on exchanges that have privacy coins. And so some of them are actually delisting privacy coins, and that force against privacy coins makes it really hard to PR. We don't work with anyone yet. It's not that we don't want to, or we may bring a privacy coin on, but at the time, it's a tough sell. But in terms of working with anonymous teams, it also depends on what we're comfortable with. But I think for YAP Global, we want to shout about our clients, and so it's really hard if they're anonymous.
Well, yeah, it's a tough problem. How do you shine light on the people who don't want light shown on them? But you know, luckily, a lot of people do like the spotlight, do want their product out there, and so you know, there's plenty out there. And if you are a company who's out there, this is, like Samantha said, this is a great time to work on the PR, because Bitcoin price is your megaphone. You know, it's already shouting out. The media companies are out there. So if you're interested, hit up Samantha Yap at YAP Global.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha, so much for joining us, giving us a little bit of behind the scenes about how PR works in the blockchain and crypto space. I really appreciate you taking the time and sitting and talking with me. And for all of our viewers here at Reimagine 2020, I'm Yonah Hochhauser. Happy holidays.